All right, we are live, ready to record an awesome podcast here about the carnivore diet. So I am here with a good friend of mine, James Olcott, also a patient of the clinic here. And he's actually the one that turned me onto this diet. I want to say it was about 3 years ago. We were just chit-chatting and he started telling me about this crazy diet called the carnivore diet that involved no vegetables, no fruit. And I just thought, what's this guy on? Like, it just sounds crazy. I mean, here I am 3 years later, still eating this way, which we'll get into what exactly is the carnivore diet. But James Olcott has been a lifelong proponent of weightlifting, nutrition. I mean, I know your wife has done bodybuilding competitions. So you guys are all about health and fitness and, educating yourselves on, proper, macros and eating and nutrients. So, you're the first person that told me about the carnivore diet. So I thought it would be awesome to have you on here and just have a good conversation about the carnivore diet. So,
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. And so it has been for you, you think 2-3 years that you've been eating this way on the carnivore diet, right?
Yeah, it was during the blip is when I started.
Okay.
And so I kind of easy to lose track of time there, but I think it's been 3 years.
Okay. And real quick, before we get into this, I have to put this disclaimer out there. So this is not medical advice. Consult with your doctor if this is something you would like to do, because this isn't for everyone. Certain conditions or cases where people should not eat this way. So, but this is for just educating and having an open conversation about this. So I want to put that disclaimer out there real quick.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor.
But okay, so you've been eating this way for 3 years. So for anyone listening, just high level, not getting into a ton of details, but what is the carnivore diet? How would you explain it to a friend at work that's like, hey, what is this carnivore diet?
Like in the most simplest terms,
Yeah.
The way I do it,
sure,
is red meat,
okay.
Fatty red meat.
Okay,
that's how I explain it to people.
And there's multiple variations of the carnivore diet too, from what I've discovered, because some people don't even do red meat on the carnivore diet. So there's kind of different versions, because some people think carnivore diet's only steaks 24/7. That's all you're doing. Mm-hmm. And I'd love for you to share the way you eat. And I can maybe share the way I have found, and everybody kind of has a different, way of eating that maybe works for their body chemistry the best. But yeah, eating meat, but essentially it's a high fat, high protein, and almost zero carb mm-hmm. way of eating.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. And I didn't know there were different types of carnivore until after I had already started.
Sure. Yeah.
And same here. I started learning about, some people on carnivore do Greek yogurt and fruit and nuts.
Yeah. Dairy and
fish. And I was like, oh,
right.
Okay.
Right. So there's a little variation there, but the way you eat is mostly red meat.
The way I eat is just red meat.
Just red meat. So
it's super easy.
So explain what did you eat yesterday? Let's say if someone's like, well, what do you eat for breakfast?
I typically do not eat breakfast.
Okay. So you fast in conjunction with carnivore diet.
Yep. And I think fasting, one of the largest lessons I learned in carnivore was going from a traditional diet before learning about carnivore, which was, since the age of 13, 39 now, grew up reading Muscle Fitness magazine, Men's Health. I was just reading it. How do I get fit and live the best life?
Yeah.
And everything I had read was, okay, kind of treat your body like a furnace. You need to be stoking that fire, keep your metabolism high. So small meals, balanced meals, a vegetable, some rice, some chicken, lean protein, lean turkey. Those are like my staples.
Right.
And like a sweet potato with some broccoli. And that was like every 3 hours I was eating that.
Right. Okay.
And until I went to bed. Sometimes some cottage cheese, but dairy typically doesn't agree with me very well. And I ate that way for a decade. 2 decades, maybe almost
And
3.
mostly felt okay.
Mostly felt okay, but I always felt bloated.
Okay.
Like I could never just like relax my stomach. If I let it hang out,
Yeah.
it would just be this little pooch,
Okay.
you know? So I always had that belly fat,
Yeah.
always had brain fog.
Okay.
After working a full day, going to the gym after work, I mean, I would swing by the Shell gas station, pick up a large coffee, put some ice in it,
Okay.
slam it, and then take a nap in the parking lot before I went into the gym. I could fall asleep on a dime.
And now you feel like energy is through the roof, mental acuity is through the roof, not having to hit the coffees or energy drinks as much.
Yeah.
And less bloating.
Way less bloating.
I would say the same for me. That's like, one of the big things that I noticed.
Yeah.
And I could actually see my abs for once in my life.
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
Yeah. So you mix in the intermittent fasting on top of, and I know that I tell people that's like turbo boosting your results if you mix in intermittent fasting.
Yeah. And it wasn't intentional. I think it's a I don't know, kind of a silver lining of going carnivore and doing it the right way. Because when you eat high fat, high protein, and the way I have done it was you eat until you are full, until another bite doesn't sound good, is actually how I was taught from.
I know Dr. Glenn Berry on YouTube, he teaches that too.
Yeah.
Don't count calories, just go until you're satiated, till you're full.
Exactly.
And that's the way you started.
I haven't counted a calorie my entire time on this diet. You eat until another bite doesn't sound good. Your body knows what it's doing. Listen to your body. And if you eat that way, let's say I don't eat until 6 or 7 o'clock at night, but I eat until another bite doesn't sound good.
Right.
I'm not even hungry for another 24 hours. So eating breakfast doesn't even sound good.
You're like, why? I'm not hungry.
I'm not hungry.
I would say I've noticed that too. When I started eating this way, it came noon, came 6, and I was like, wait, I should be hungry, but I'm not. But my mind just thinks it's time to eat.
Yep.
And we're taught, okay, eat the 3 meals a day, just eat anyway. But then you're eating excessive calories that you probably don't need.
Mm-hmm.
And when people aren't used to eating, high protein, high fat, and feeling fuller, it's like, oh, I should be hungry by now. Yeah. But I remember being shocked, and other people I've sort of put on the diet, they're like, I'm confused. It's been like 14 hours and I'm not hungry. Is something off or wrong?
Yeah. No, it's crazy, especially coming from the diet I was.
Right. Yeah. Higher carb hours. Your body just goes through that quick.
Stoking it. I mean, I worked years in excavation. I'd be on a dozer, an excavator. The worst is a loader because you got your lunchbox right there. Well, here comes 9 a.m. I just pull out a snack. And then once you start, I mean, my lunch would be gone by 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And I'm still hungry.
Yeah.
I still want to eat. And that is one of the biggest things I realized was just that intermittent fasting, because of eating the right.
So it just kind of came naturally with it. It wasn't necessarily intentional.
Yeah. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do carnivore and implement intermittent fasting to maximize my benefits. It was just, whoa, when I eat until I'm totally satiated, I'm not even hungry for another 20. I'm not even thinking about food.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would totally agree. But that is one, I guess, piece of advice if someone's listening. Like, if you're eating that way and you're not listening to your body and you just keep eating, of course, like you could gain weight if you just keep eating, even though you're not, your body's not ready for it. So listen to your body and what it needs. But I would totally agree with that, where I was a little shocked of like, lunchtime, I should be eating. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. And that's, I started questioning everything. Why do we eat breakfast, lunch, dinner? Like, how did this breakfast thing come to be?
Right.
And you start doing a deep dive into some things and you start to realize there's a lot of profit to be made.
Totally.
And
I think we're all learning that the last few years, and why maybe red meat's not promoted. And I mean, I do think it's one of the superfoods and one of the highest bioavailable foods out there, with all these micronutrients and,
Absolutely.
some great benefits. And there's, I forget where I've seen it, but some national, I guess, dietary recommendations rank some cereals over red meat,
Yeah.
which blows my mind.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Dana White, like these famous people started going on the carnivore, and it's kind of put it on the map, and people are paying attention and realizing, oh, red meat's maybe not so bad. Eggs maybe aren't, so bad either.
Yeah. Ever since Sean Baker went on the Joe Rogan podcast,
Sean
things
Baker,
kinda, like blew up.
Yeah, he's an MD, right? Sean Baker.
Yeah.
He's a big proponent of eating this way.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think if anyone's sort of like, well, I don't know, there's prominent MDs that have put patients on this way of eating for decades and have done the blood test and followed up, and obviously, like we said, consult with a physician before you do this. But and more research probably needs to come out. But this has been going on for decades. This isn't, because when I first heard it, oh, it's new. You start digging in, this has been going on for a while.
Yeah.
And you do sometimes think of like, all right, our ancestors killed a buffalo and that's all they had to eat for maybe weeks, months. And they didn't think, I need a multivitamin, I need to go get an orange. Like, they survived off this stuff for a long time.
Yeah. And they would feast and then they would fast until the next kill.
Right.
And I think one of the things, the hacks, if you will, to help me keep from overeating, because I think a problem that I've had in the past is like, oh, eat dinner and then like maybe a bowl of cereal after dinner sounds really good.
Sure.
But Anthony Chafee is also a doctor.
He's got a YouTube video called "Plants Are Trying to Kill You." Yeah, we can talk about that later. Finish the thought.
He said, if you think you're hungry and a piece of red meat doesn't sound good, you're not hungry. You have an addiction.
That's a good, yeah.
You have an addiction to sugar. And that's like in the beginning, took a little time to break that.
Right.
But when I just said that to myself, does a piece of red meat sound good? No? Okay. Well, then I'm really not hungry.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. And one other thing I would add on top of that too is maybe, because this was me in the beginning, if I didn't get my fat content high enough, then I would feel depleted. If you just go too high on the proteins, no carb, minimal fats, and it's just like ground turkey 24/7.
Oh, totally.
Like that is one thing I think people could be like, I just feel depleted. And it might even sound surprising that like fat content should be more than 50% of your diet, just eating fats.
Yeah.
Like maybe 65 to 80% fats, 20 to 35 protein, and maybe 0 to 10. Would you agree roughly with those numbers?
Yeah. Honestly, I've never even broken it down. For me, I've gone off my bowel movements. Will tell me everything about my fat content, if it's too high or too low. In the beginning, it was really high, and you're going to know because you're going to have diarrhea.
Yeah.
So back off the fats, find a happy spot there where you're not going constantly. And you got regular bowel movements, and I think you're in a sweet spot.
And I think, we can bounce around here in this conversation, but I do think it's important to talk about your GI if this is a way that you're going to eat. And this is something I personally experienced trying to go on carnivore. And this is why I tell people maybe the first 2 weeks or a month, ease into it. Because if you've had a bad way of eating and then you go full carnivore the next day, you can get discouraged because your gut is not ready for this way of eating. Because your acidic levels in your stomach should be low, should be 4 or 5, but sometimes for people that have eaten high carbs, sugars, the stomach gets lazy and it's not ready to digest red meat on a regular basis like that, and it needs that workup time. So personally, I'll tell some people, let's do 50% carnivore, 50% the old way, and slowly work that up as time goes on. And with the higher fat content, the gallbladder, the liver needs to produce bile to break down that fat. And some people will start, getting diarrhea, GI issues. their body just can't handle this new way of eating.
Yeah.
And so I will add that in there. If someone's contemplating this way, to just, keep that in mind and ease into it a little bit. But I actually noticed myself, when I ate lots of carbs, lots of vegetables, having to have more bowel movements, and then going to the carnivore a lot less, but quite regular. But it's because, let me know your thoughts, because the food's more bioavailable. I tell people all the time, think about this. If you ate a nice steak, a piece of chicken, maybe some seafood, eggs, and you had a bowel movement, not to get too graphic, but have you ever noticed a piece of undigested chicken or eggs or meat in your stool? No. But have you noticed when you've had a massive salad, vegetables that you, oh, wow, there's, salad floating in the toilet. There's, blueberries, corn, like
Very good.
because a lot of that's not as bioavailable for your body to digest. And it's saying, get this out of here. I don't want that.
100%. Yep.
So
that's what people say, like, oh, you need fiber in your diet. I was like, what does fiber do? What is fiber? I mean,
there's a lot of misconceptions about
it's really interesting.
Fiber.
It's by definition undigestible. And it's like, if I eat a muffin, a poppy seed muffin, I could count on it. Like, okay, within 15 minutes, I'm going to be running to the bathroom because my body's saying, get this out of me.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing.
Right.
That's your body rejecting something.
I would agree on that. And one comment, I don't know if you would agree, but like my body had never functioned at this optimal level eating this way. So I almost didn't even know I could feel this good.
Mm-hmm.
And now feeling and eating that way, if I have a cheat day or have, let's say I'm having sushi or Thai food or going out to eat, all right, I'm going to, splurge this one day and maybe have a glass of wine. I feel it way more than the way I used to eat, because I didn't eat as clean. And I wouldn't notice, like, let's say I was functioning at a 7. If I dropped down to a 6, it wasn't that big of a deal. But if I'm feeling a 9 and 10, and then now I go down to a 6 or 7, it's very noticeable.
That's exactly what it's like.
Is that what you would say is
even, I can even feel the difference if I have a handful of chips.
I can too.
I can almost feel the chips, the glucose hit my brain.
And feeling bloated the next 12 hours.
And fog, almost like a little bit of a hangover the next day.
I would agree.
And that too. Oh my gosh, that's why I've kept doing it for so long, because
you don't want to go back
to feeling good.
Yeah. I tell people that all the time, that they're like, wow, that sounds hard to eat that way. You got to be super disciplined. Yeah. And it's like, well, yeah, to feel amazing. And once you feel amazing and you experience weight loss, increased mental and physical energy, more mental bandwidth, your body feels better. Like, my back felt a lot better. I had an improved skin tone, less bloating. It's like, I want to keep this and I don't want to go back.
I haven't seen it. I haven't experienced myself a single downside to it.
And before we just went live, you just mentioned that you recently got your blood work, because that is something I hear of, hey, that's a lot of saturated fats with all the red meat. I think that's something that has also got a bad name, but all your cholesterol levels, your blood work look great.
Perfect.
Everything's in the green. And I would say, again, these are just two anecdotal, I've had my blood work 2-3 years after eating this way. Everything has looked great for me too.
Yeah.
And so again, consult with your doctor, but, and this isn't just us. I mean, that if you, let's say, talk to Sean Baker, these other doctors, they have tons of patients on this. They're monitoring closely their blood work, their, electrolyte levels, and, it's looking great.
And ever since COVID, I've learned to question everything. And I just come into question like a child. I went back to my childlike mentality of just be curious about everything. Why? And carrying that mentality with me. Why is high cholesterol bad?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Right.
It's a high number. What, we don't like high numbers? And you look into statins and
Right.
into the multi-billion-dollar industry. Well, what if people didn't have Hashimoto's or Crohn's or diabetes? Or what if all these issues were gone away? These multi-billion-dollar industries would collapse. I mean, my goodness, it's really remarkable. If you really want to do a deep dive, you can.
Yeah. And I think maybe too many people just blindly follow general advice.
Yeah.
And it's okay to question, do your own research. And that's a huge reason why I got this podcast going, is just to have those conversations, educate. And it's different when it comes from, like, I live in this community. We, we're in a room in our clinic. Like, this isn't someone that you don't know. And that was my big purpose of, like, oh, okay, here's somebody that's, actually doing this, having a conversation about it. And I think we can see a little bit of the tides turning. I mean, I try not to follow a lot of the news, but I know with a lot of the new administration and the health professionals coming into power, that there is this shift on, like, hey, yeah, we might want to question some of these things. And I think, either side of it, it's always good to question and find the pros and cons and do your own research. But I mean, that was, my initial gut reaction when you were like, yeah, this is, something I'm hearing about. I was like, that's no way. Yeah. And then the more I look in, the more I research, the more I listen, to educate myself, the more I'm like, this is making a lot of sense.
Yeah. There's a lot of great resources out there for someone who really wants to do a deep dive into it.
Right.
There's a lot of really.
What are some of the people that you listen to? I know we mentioned a few. Dr. Anthony Chafee, and I want to say he's a surgeon, maybe a neurosurgeon.
Yep, out of, I believe, Australia.
And I think when I did this live talk, he does this.
Yeah,
it's like a keynote talk as plants are trying to kill you.
Yeah,
he
talks a lot about it. A lot of good studies that have been done. I mean, just besides the things that we've talked about, the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
With having kids and Dr. Kills and his fertility clinics and switching people who are struggling to have babies and eliminating all carbohydrates, putting them on a high fat, high protein diet, and boom, they're pregnant.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. So
the stories that are out
there. There's a lot of other benefits and perks to this style of eating. Like for diabetics, it's basically zero sugar.
Yeah.
So, and I had this just a snapshot study, and this is done by Harvard. So these are some big time universities studying. This was just one from 2021, 2,000 participants over a half a year. 100% of diabetics came off all injectable medications.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like
real stuff.
A huge issue in America. 92% of diabetics came off insulin completely, came off 84% off oral medications, 90% improvement in all diseases, average weight loss 20 pounds. So it really is getting rid of sugars, which, man, that can just wreak havoc on the body. It's eliminating a lot of the bad carbs that are just, it's like, they're just, bad carbs are everywhere. Like when we travel, it's like, okay, where can I get my protein? It's like finding a needle in a haystack. And
good luck.
Yeah.
If you do, it's probably cooked in canola oil or some sort of seed oil.
Yeah.
At a restaurant, and which is highly inflammatory.
I started packing a cooler.
Yeah.
And people ask, well, I travel a lot. I'm like, hey, pack a cooler. It's just tons of hard boiled eggs or red meat, and you can heat it up.
It's just like, I used to think like, oh, I got to eat out as I'm hungry. But like, again, going back to, if you're eating in the proper proportions of fat and protein, you won't even be hungry for another 24 hours.
Right.
You don't need to have all these meals planned out.
Right.
My Sundays used to be, okay, Nina, let's meal prep. It's we better get started. It's noon, so it's probably gonna take us a handful of hours to meal prep through Wednesday, and then Wednesday night we'll do it again, because we had all these meals, and what do you want the veggie to be, and what do you want the carb to be, and what do you want our protein to be? Now it's just like
simplified.
Go out, barbecue a bunch of ribeye or a bunch of tri-tip, or make a bunch of ground beef. That's a real cheap way to do it. Pork belly, and it's all like large quantities. And you just cut it up, put it in the fridge, and
I would say it does simplify. It simplifies. And I think some people have a hard time hearing like, wow, that's like what you eat all the time. But there is something to be said about just like, okay, eating these clean foods, not wondering what am I going to eat? What am I, there is a lot of perks to that. Maybe not for someone that's like a chef and I love variety and all of this. But maybe for a busy professional that just, I want to eat for function and for energy. I think this is a great go-to. I just had the Buys family on here. You know them, but raw milk, you know, getting the healthy fats and, you know, there's protein in there. And so, you know, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt. But you got to watch out for not just yogurt, but Greek yogurt, because a lot of yogurts, they just slam a bunch of artificial flavors, sugars, but there can be a decent variety on the carnivore diet, you know, bacon, pork, lamb. I mean, there's so many different foods once you start getting into it.
Absolutely. And I think one thing, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. For me personally, carnivore it's a lifestyle. It's kind of a life philosophy. You know, your body is like a Ferrari. Why would you put regular unleaded in it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
it's a great analogy.
But I love my parents as an example. You know, my mom has sometimes mentioned she thinks I must be depressed if I not eating ice cream and pie. You know, like you're not going to eat dessert,
right?
And you know, I've heard a lot of people say that and see me pull up my blind bed and mean, oh, I could never do that. And I go, well, you have to figure out what you want most in life.
Right.
Right. Going back to basic goal setting. Do you want to be chronically inflamed, tired all the time, not have the energy, be overweight, you know, and so many other reasons? Or would you rather perform optimally?
Right.
And stop. It's such an unhealthy relationship people have with food.
Yeah.
And I used to too.
Yep.
But once you can correct that relationship with food, I think carnivore does a really good job of doing that.
Right.
It forces you to face that.
And
if you're willing to overcome that and look at your body as, hey, this is a temple. I'm going to treat it as such so I can perform optimally, be there for my wife, be there for my kids, perform whatever I got to do during the day, my profession or my career.
Yeah, I agree. And I almost did it out of pure necessity. I mean, you saw our clinic here and how we've grown a lot and, you know, married 4 kids. I mean, you got 3 kids, you're a busy professional, you're on the go. It's like, man, I can't tow this anchor behind me, which is this poor diet. I need to function the best that I can to be present for my work, for, you know, my family, my kids. I can't be dragging through the door at 6 and just, hey, I need to go to rest and not be present there with your wife, your kids. So, I mean, that was a huge pull for me. Like, okay, I got to figure this out. And I think just as I got older too, I mean, I just turned 40, but back then it was like 36, 37. I was just feeling I can't eat this way. And like, I just felt the pull and like, I got to do something different if I want to hit this next level. So I would say if that's speaking to you, this is definitely worth something looking into. Let's quickly talk about, you know, okay, what do you mean no fruits and vegetables? What is the argument against that? And one of those videos, Dr. Chafee, he talks about, vegetables actually have a lot of carcinogens. Like I think he referred to Brussels sprouts or maybe spinach having like 50 documented carcinogens and all these different, you know, chemicals on them. And maybe you can add to this, but one of the main philosophies is that, you know, a lot of vegetables, you know, they're trying to protect themselves and they don't want to be eaten. And so they have these anti-nutrients and they're trying to protect themselves and not be eaten. So there's these anti-nutrients basically that some veggies have. And once I got rid of vegetables and salads, my bloating went way down. I didn't like it fit. And like some people are like, if they want to see the research, I'm like, hey, this is the way it fit it for me. And it worked out perfect. But what would you say on that about, well, yay, fruits have all these vitamins and vitamin C and don't you need fruits and vegetables?
That's what we've been told. That's what I was always told. Got to get I don't even know. I haven't looked at the food pyramid.
Oh, it's way off
in a long time. But, you know, I just go off of how I feel. Listen to my body. The ROI for eating fruits and vegetables to me is not there. It's like doing a deadlift to me.
Like, yeah, it may use some benefits, but to blow my back out, I can find other ways.
Call a friend if I need to lift something heavy. And like with the vegetables, one thing I just noticed, I don't know, I could eat a ton of fruit and keep eating, and there's a lot of sugar. I did it right for the sugar, because I don't care what kind of carb it is. If it comes from a vegetable or fruit, your body's still going to process it pretty much the same way. Convert it to glucose, and the excess is, because I think you can only store like 400 micrograms or grams of glucose in your muscles, and after that, it's going to your cells, your liver.
And a lot of fruit. I thought I had a slide here, but a lot of fruit does have a lot of sugar. But I'd say it's better than just candy bar. It's in a different form. But
for sure.
But like an apple and there's a lot of sugar in that. So
and I would always get a stomach ache if I ate a whole apple. Sometimes I would just get a stomach ache afterward, and have to go to the bathroom.
And I think there's just so much sugar jammed in everything. Obviously fruit's more natural form, but like people don't realize. I'm just looking at a slide here. Sunny D, 19 grams of sugar.
That's pretty low for a drink.
Yeah, and the daily recommended, and then for women is 25 grams, and this is, I forget, maybe the American Heart Association, 36 for males. But I'm like, okay, one little thing of yogurt is 18 grams. Barbecue sauce, 16. And I think that's another, ketchup. People can really ruin the results too. With, hey, I'm eating meat, but you slathered a ton of barbecue sauce on there that like has 20 grams of sugar. So you got to watch. Spices are great. There's some low sugar, low carb, barbecue sauces too that I've discovered.
Sure.
But you got to watch that as well.
Yeah. And for me, man, it just goes back to, because I've ran into several people like, oh, that's so boring. I like variety. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And
it's like personal preference.
Trying to convince anyone to do this here. It's like,
right.
You can do what you want to do, but there are consequences. And people will say, well, it's really expensive. But, well, what's really expensive is 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, getting a really terrible diagnosis.
Right.
That you could have prevented by eating healthy and eating right. And now you have to take these medications life.
Totally.
Because you wanted to do what you felt like doing.
Right.
When you wanted to do it. And, whatever. Everyone teach their own.
Yeah, totally.
But I just look at things totally different.
Yeah.
It's my responsibility to be healthy and in shape for not only my family, but to be an example for my community. And I feel like, God gave me this body. Why would I put junk in it? Why not do as much as I can?
I totally agree
with the body he gave me. And
it's great mindset.
It's a totally different frame.
And the price thing that's come up. Like we don't really eat out anymore because it's hard to eat healthy out. Like we were just talking about, where I think we save a lot of money because we're not eating out. And honestly, eggs are cheap. You could do ground beef. Like when you look at it compared to some other processed meals, it's like, it really isn't that expensive, especially if you cut eating out.
Yeah.
Like,
totally. You cut out your Starbucks, you cut out your Dutch Bros, you cut out eating out, you cut out the Grubhub, oh my gosh, there's a ton of savings there.
Yeah.
And you just pile that into whatever, 10 pounds of ground beef, go to, and or whatever. There's really different.
No, I totally agree.
So,
one other thing we haven't hit on is there are some benefits from putting your body in ketosis. And there's a lot of research actually behind like epilepsy and people that maybe have different brain diseases, that they put them into ketosis, which I'm looking at a graph here for anyone listening. Normally, if you eat a lot of carbs, your body just uses that as energy. But when you cut the carbs out and you start eating like we're talking about, your body will turn to fat or energy, and the liver will start breaking down fat into something called ketones. And then the ketones are released into the bloodstream. And then those ketones can travel to the brain for energy. And I think that's one of the main big, obviously you're clearing out a lot of junk, and especially if you get alcohol out of there. But this is one reason of why I think people experience this increased mental acuity. And I was a little shocked by it, because I thought I eat mostly clean before, but then it's kind of hard to explain. But I feel like my brain and thoughts just fire quicker and don't gas out as quick.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Did they even make keto drinks? With ketones.
Yeah. You hear keto everything, and that's what they hit that. Right.
I don't know if it's beneficial if you're not in ketosis. Your body's not using that as
Probably
a
not.
process. I don't think it would be.
Yeah.
For someone who's on carnivore and in keto already, I think it maybe. But yeah, I mean, I always challenge people. And honestly, John, the person who inspired me, he was like, you have to be willing to be the experiment. Because no matter what you want to believe in this world, you can find evidence to support it.
Yeah.
There is a God, there is no God.
Sure.
Global warming, no global warming. I mean, the list is virtually endless. So it's like, at some point, you just have to jump in, try it, see how you feel, use that as your base, your foundation to make decisions.
Yes.
That's kind of, I adopted that mindset. I was like, okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah. What's the worst? I feel like crap for a month. I already kind of was feeling like crap anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to have brain fog and
I mean,
all the time.
The older I get, the more I agree with that philosophy. And like, well, shoot, instead of just analyzing this until I don't do anything, like let's see how I feel.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost out of time here. I'm trying to think, is there anything we didn't? What would you say physique wise? Like personally, I went basically back down to my high school weight. I probably dropped a good 10 pounds. And definitely thinned out through the waist. And I mean, you were already fit. I mean, you're already low body fat. You're already a fit guy. I definitely wasn't as chiseled as you. And I think the more unfit you are, the more results you're going to experience. But I mean, I definitely, would say as far as like my physique, it definitely took off. Obviously had to lift weights in addition to that.
Yeah.
And definitely, build muscle. But I would say doing those things, mixing in the fasting, definitely I'd say I feel the best I ever have.
Yeah.
Would you say physique wise, you've noticed some positive changes?
Absolutely.
As I think most people, would do it just for that, just to look better.
Yeah. 100%. Especially with the sun coming out here, soon with summer, I think it's like one of the best ways if you want to lose an extra 10, 15 pounds of like fat, especially that stubborn belly fat.
Yeah.
I remember 3 weeks into it, for me personally, I lost 15 pounds and I haven't had veins and I haven't really been trying. I kind of stopped doing like the treadmill warrior kind of workouts that I had been doing years ago. But I haven't had veins in my abs for a decade probably. But just by switching my diet, I didn't change my workouts.
Right.
Like I had vascularity in my abdominals.
Yeah.
And down to, I mean, usually
more tone.
Way more tone, way more lean. In those stubborn areas that are, it's really the last place to go.
Yeah. Well, any other last minute thoughts? I know we've thrown some names out there. I like this guy, Dr. Berry. I don't know if you followed him, Dr. Ken Berry. He's got some good videos. Sometimes they're 2 hours long of getting going on the carnivore diet. You've referred to Sean Baker. He's an MD. Dr. Berry's an MD. I know there's a lot of other great people out there.
There's a lot. I mean, Michaela Peterson there, you see on your screen there. I mean, she's a big advocate and proponent and someone who's been doing it for years.
Yeah.
And the more you dive into it, you're going to hear a lot of people's personal testimonies.
Yeah.
Aren't backed by any big pharma.
Right.
They don't have anything to sell you.
Yeah.
And to me, especially going through
Yeah.
blip, I've just learned that, all these conspiracies that, I believe in, all these conspiracies have been to be true, right?
No, I agree. Like there may not be double-blinded peer-review studies on this, but it's like, oh, we're kind of finding out maybe some of those studies in other areas are not even true, And I my test is clicking on maybe one of these YouTube videos that has 5 million views and reading through the comments and how many people, I'm off my blood pressure medication. I've never felt so good. I had, lupus. I had this autoimmune. I had RA. I'm off of this. I'm off. It just one after the other at like thousands of comments.
Yep.
And I remember going through like, wow, these people aren't paid.
They're not paid.
These are just people that listen to something like this and went,
exactly.
I got to change.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen? I'm going to do this for 30 days.
Yeah.
And I tell people, do it for 30 days.
Yeah.
And once you feel the results, you probably stick to it like us. Or like, I'm not going back.
Yeah. We didn't even talk about like cholesterol and sex hormones and dementia and Alzheimer's. I mean, gosh, you go down this rabbit hole, there is a lot to learn. And in my opinion, I don't know of any reason not to try it. And I should say this. I mean, before I made the decision to do it, I mean, I looked at the videos, I read things.
Right.
I did research for probably 6 to 8 months before I made the decision. Like,
totally.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right so that I can confidently evaluate whether or not it actually works.
Totally. Yeah. So this is the first time you're hearing this, and you're like, all right, I'm ready to go. Maybe, do a little more research, do your due diligence. You got to educate yourself on this and not just, blindly walk into it. But yeah, I think we did a good job of summarizing this, just kind of giving people a high level, idea of what the carnivore diet is. And a lot of patients just kind of hear social media posts that I've done this. And so they've asked me, and I, thought, man, I need to just record a podcast that I can hear. Listen to this. I'm going to text it to you. And so thanks for coming on and sharing and
having me.
Yeah. Take the time out of your busy day. It is fun, especially when it's something you're passionate about. You've, felt the results and you can speak with conviction on. And yeah, I love benefiting and adding value to people out there. Because there's a lot of, just bad information. And so I think for people, especially in our community here in the Tigard, Beaverton, Portland Metro, to know that there's a community here, folks like us that are doing this and eating this way. It's probably enlightening to hear about it and talk about the different misconceptions. So, any final thoughts?
I think you covered it, man.
Okay.
Yeah, just do your research. It has to be your choice, right?
Absolutely.
Your decision to do it. Because you won't do it the right way. And you won't go all in if you're not convicted, like I was. I'd heard too many stories, too many doctors talking about it. And I made a decision, all right, I'm going to do this. So that'd be my biggest recommendation.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, James Olcott, for coming on. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks for having me.